Hello everyone, it's Lola here again. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make an amazing crusty no-knead Dutch oven bread. All the work time you need for this recipe is just about 10 minutes. Every other thing is just the waiting time and the baking time. And it requires just 4 ingredients. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to add my flour inside a large bowl, and I'm just going to create a well in the middle of the flour. And in that well, I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of yeast. And finally, I'm going to be adding my very warm water, and I'm going to be mixing this together with my spatula until the water has been totally absorbed by the flour. And as you are mixing it and the dough is forming, you're going to discover your spatula cannot go any longer. So I'll just be using my hands to mix this together until all the water has been absorbed by the flour and a wet and sticky dough is formed. I'm not actually kneading the dough. All I'm doing here is just mixing everything together, and this should take about 1 minute or thereabouts. So now my dough is all formed, and as you can see, it's a very soft dough. At this point, try not to be tempted to add more flour. It's just okay the way it is. All we have to do right now is just to cover it up with a plastic wrap or a lid. And I'm going to be leaving this to rise in a warm place for at least 2 hours. At this point, you can even leave the dough to rise overnight. It's all well and good. Don't touch it, just keep it in a warm place for 2 hours. Now, this dough has been resting for 2 hours, and as you can see, we have a kind of jiggly dough here. So what I'm going to do right now is just to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the surface of this dough just for easier handling, and I'm going to punch it down and remove all the trapped air. So as you can see, this dough is a very soft one, but just try as much as you can to gather all the dough together in a ball. Then lift this dough from the bowl and transfer it to a parchment paper that is already laid on the tabletop. So once again, I'm just going to cover this dough with a clean kitchen towel, and I'll leave it again to rise for another 1 hour. So while the dough is rising the second time, I'll just be taking my Dutch oven pot and I'll be putting that in my oven. I want it to be really hot before I transfer my dough inside the pot. And the reason is because the dough is going to start cooking immediately you put it inside the pot. And this is also going to help to give you that nice thick crust that you want. So now this dough has been resting for 1 hour. The next thing I'm going to do is just to dust the surface of this dough with some flour. And this is going to give it that kind of artisan look. Then I'm going to score the surface with a sharp knife. This is actually optional. You don't have to do it because the bread will still rise anyways and it's still going to tear open by itself. But you know, I like to do this just to create a kind of beauty on the surface of the bread. So now I'm just going to transfer this dough inside my Dutch oven. Remember, the pot is very hot. I'm just going to cover this up immediately so that I don't lose much heat. And I'm going to be returning it back into my 450 degrees preheated oven. So this bread has been baking for 30 minutes now, and as you can see, it's coming out really good. So at this point, I'm just going to remove the lid of the Dutch oven, and I'm going to be putting this back inside my oven to bake uncovered for another 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how dark and crusty you want the bread to be. So here we go, the bread is all done. As you can see, it's looking really good. I'll just be taking this out of the oven. I'll be transferring it to my tabletop so you can see exactly how it looks. As you can see, it's looking very crusty on the outside and it's very chewy on the inside. So that is it again for today. Thank you so very much for spending your time with me. All the details you need to this recipe can be found in the description box below. Until next time, I'll talk to you shortly. Enjoy.